Brought to you by Knights of Awakening. This is the Labyrinth. And today, our topic is the Mystic Knight and the Flow. We're doing another non-video one. I can clean up video and audio pretty good on this machine now. I've learned a lot of tricks, but the non-video episodes give me a degree of freedom in presentation and in clean audio that I think is a little bit more important for a podcast than you seeing me wave my hands at a camera. If you would like to see me wave my hands at a camera, at some point I'll do a live ritual, in which case you'll see me wave my hands for like all of 5 seconds, and then you'll see me do deep meditations in the shamanic journey, and you will likely get very little out of the video, as I say. So with that, for those who are tuning in, this has a lot to do with both Jedi philosophy and overall understanding of mysticism. My hope is that this show will cover things so that everyone gets something out of this. I hope that if you have any draw towards the mystical, the energetic, if you're a pagan, if you're a Christian, if you are any philosophy or ideal, that you will get something out of this. There are going to be some references to the Jedi community. There are going to be some references to concepts like the Force. But at the end of the day, I think that there'll be something here that if you're a practicing mystic, you will gain something from this. What does this show have to do with paganism? Is the very first question I've got to ask myself. And here's what it has to do with paganism in general. If you're seeing this on a pagan group, this is why. With paganism, we focus largely, many of us, on mystical practices, working with the ebb and flow of the universe. And because of that, everything I cover here is quadruply important to any practicing mystic pagan who may be listening. This is the core of what magic is. This is the core of manifestation and of understanding. And it's an understanding that we have gained through modern understandings of energy by coupling thousands of systems together until finally it made sense. It may be, in some people's view, homogenized, and in other people's views, it may be lacking. But ultimately, almost every major modern mystical practice now recognizes a flow. And I call it the flow because I don't want to call it the Force. The reason I say that is that the Force is tied up with a Jedi community which ranges on the month that you are viewing it from being very practical and useful and helpful for learning you grow in these things to very impractical. It is connected to a giant mouse who built the world's largest people trap now. And I really don't want to fight with that mouse. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to call this energy the Force. I am going to reference some of its roots and understandings that are found within the Jedi community, and any references to the Force in that respect are references to the Jedi community, the real-life people who practice these methods. They are references to the inspirations they have gained from the fiction. And sometimes I think it's the fear of a giant mouse who built a people trap that causes more of the dissension and disagreements in that community. But it is not my place to oversee that community. I am considered to be a member within it, but not a member in good standing. In other words, I am not a Jedi. The more people I talk to, the more people come to the agreement that they believe that I am, or may be, or should be. But I do not take that name. Partially because of the mouse, partially because of where I'm at in my life in terms of physicality, partially because of where I'm at in my life in terms of morality. Although my moral center may be stronger, more certain, more focused than you might think if you didn't know me well enough. For those who truly know me and know my soul, they know that I hate violence and I love justice. And that these things permeate me. And when I am wrong, I apologize. And when I hurt someone, I feel sorrow. When I act out in anger or aggression, this causes me pain inside. And those who know me know this of me. But I still won't take the name Jedi. I feel that it's unwise for the community to do so that I am a part of, that being the Knights of Awakening, that as soon as we take that name again, we dive into the constant controversies. So, I have to get that out there. That's what this has to do with the Jedi. I'm talking about the same energies that you will be utilizing too in your training, assuming that you're following the same basic structure that I did when I took the name, and the same basic structure that I still follow to this day. Why do they call it the Force in Star Wars and in the Jedi community? Well, in the Jedi community, they pick the name up from Star Wars. And honestly, with a lot of directions that they're going with, I honestly believe that the Jedi may need to drop the name the Force. They've now used the term to mean a homogenized energy, in the sense that it means whatever you want it to mean or whatever you believe it to mean, and they've gotten rid of the original meanings from the movies. So therefore, maybe they should be using the words the flow and I should be using the Force. But I got to the flow first, and actually countless mystics before me have used the terms the flow and the source long before Star Wars was ever thought of. So with that in mind, we're going to have to look at the definition of a mystic from the Wikipedia. And it's necessary to do this for the Mystic Knight, which is what this is about. This is about you, as a mystic, as a knight, bettering yourself through the flow, and gaining a better understanding of this. But we're also going to hit on some differences and understanding this energy deeper. This is kind of my philosophical dive in on these things. And I'm hoping that it helps you as much as it helps me to analyze these concepts. So, a mystic, well, we need the definition for that. So I went to the Wikipedia, and I looked up mysticism. Mysticism, as the Wikipedia says, is popularly known as becoming one with God or the Absolute. This could also be the flow, so that you know. But may refer to any kind of ecstasy or altered state of consciousness which is given a religious or spiritual meaning. From Webster's. It may also refer to the attainment of insight in ultimate or hidden truths and to human transformation supported by practices and experiences. For the mystic, it's not enough to say, I believe. We ultimately make the statement that there is no God but me in my life. We seek that power of the gods or of God for ourselves. We recognize that we can obtain that power. We are the prime movers in our lives. As a mystic, you are the strongest force in your world. And you understand that going into this as a mystic. This is important because the term mystic is very much connected to all of what we are speaking of. It is a term that I have taken as a title for myself for many years. When I was in the Jedi community, I was our token Jedi mystic. Some people called me a consular, but it amounted to the same thing. My stance on the flow of the universe has not changed in the entirety of my training and my practices, nor will it. I believe that it is vast and encompassing, and it goes beyond modern definitions. It is an ultimate or hidden truth that through the understanding of promotes human transformation, and through the experience of and practice with promotes human transformation. I believe that it is something we take into ourselves through altered states of consciousness and through hard work and discipline in these art forms. So, I'm going to put a hard line out there for those that are listening, and I'm going to draw a line between the force or the flow and other forces such as ki, mana, and prana. And I'm going to draw this hard line because the core concept of a flow is that it is universal. It is an energy current under other energies that provides them essence and power. Ki, mana, and prana have limitations in their expression. By their very nature, they are considered either internal or external in some way, and they have rules that hold fast and hard to the limits of what is expected of them as energy forms. The flow, or the force if you prefer, is limitless. It is not relegated to ki, which must be trained through breath work and muscular control methods, nor Is it only limited to the definitions expressed in prana, or mana, or even, ultimately, simply in concepts of only life force or biological energies that can scientifically be proven? The idea of this concept of this vaster energy sits under many of these ideas, but they do not themselves directly represent this. Ki is an internal energy, and mana is considered an energy from the land, whereas prana is a life force energy, similar to ki, but different, and harnessed in a different way, and advanced in a different way. These ideas, ultimately, at the end of the day, are not a universal flow. They are not a universal force. They are different in the severe because they are limited. And in that limitation, they lose something. This is where we do kind of get back to Star Wars. The inspiration for a lot of the things going on in the Jedi community. But the inspirations for that Star Wars, for that force found within it, actually come from modern understandings of mystical techniques that were incorporated into that. And in that, they were not incorporating ki or mana or prana, they were incorporating the flow or the source. An idea of a universal energy that makes up all other energies, lends its power to those energies, animates, moves, and drives all of existence. It is a power underneath all other things, and within being a power underneath all other things, it is itself not limited as we limit these other things. To call the flow or the force ki or mana or prana is a gross understatement of its capability. It encourages severe ignorance to the deeper understanding that would be gained through proper meditative practices, hard work, and training. These are things that I have pushed for since the inception of the Labyrinth, and I still push for them. I do believe that ki energy training, learning to harness mana and prana, are good steps to understanding the deeper flow, but they are only stepping stones. When your practice revolves solely around these stepping stones, and you are seeking the flow or the force, you will find yourself lacking. You have not opened up to the infinite. You would be better off to meditate on the concept of infinite first. These stepping stones provide quick results in comparison to a direct understanding of the flow, but they are not the flow in and of itself. It has been my experience, for those that will say, "How dare you, Charles, tell us how things are?" It has been my experience that the flow is deeper than any concept of ki, or mana, or prana that you could ever write down. Even in the Tao, which is a great inspiration for these things, it says the Tao that can be written is not the true Tao, and the flow that can be identified and marked down is not the true flow. However, we can certainly do a far sight better than a physical energy that only manifests through the body, such as ki. Certainly, ascribing that is the true flow, that is another word for it, is an insult to mystics everywhere. And that is my first major issue with a lot of what I see happen in various communities. People want to say, this is that. Suddenly, Odin is Mercury, or Mars. Odin would be Mercury. Thor would be Mars. Suddenly, Freya, or Frigg, is Venus. We do not need to say this is that. We need to seek a greater understanding. Odin is not the flow, though I do believe he draws from it. Thor is not the flow, though I do believe he draws from it. By that same token, Charles is not the flow, though I can tell you from first-hand experience, he does draw from it. And that will be the end of me speaking in third person, because that's just creepy, folks. The nature of the mystic is refusing the concept of something other than the self being the highest thing. It is a recognition that we are the ultimate, and that by connecting to the higher energies that are naturally there within us and within all of the universe, we become something greater. We refuse to bow to any god. We refuse to bow to any force. We refuse to bow to concepts, and instead we seek the infinite. The mystic seeks to become one with those higher forces, and they are on an eternal quest to connect to that higher power. It is our battle charge. It is what we do as mystics. If you are seeking the path of the mystic, this is what you're signing up for. And bless you, it is a hard road. Harder than most will tell you. Channeling that higher power includes guidance from it. This is where I say Star Wars pulled from ideas that were very valuable to us as mystics. The idea that this universal flow guides us to where we need to be, but also answers our command, is one that is rarely fully seen in other systems. In fact, this was the only one that I had come across in my youth that had it. And trust me, I was digging through systems left and right, seeking my truth. And there it was. This universal flow, this guiding force of power, if you will, moves us to where we need to be in accordance with our will. That our will puts an influence upon it, and yet we are also guided by it, moved by it. There's a level of personal responsibility within this that many people are not going to want to take on. The idea that karma is part of that guiding flow, that it's not some big boogity-boo chasing you around to cause you harm because how dare you break their rules, but instead, it is the natural repercussion that if all you seek is money and wealth, that is all you will have, and if all you seek is happiness and joy, that too is all you will have. But that those fields of karma, as it were, those fields of flow and force of energy and will, connect with other flows, and that too shapes your destiny, is another part of this greater idea that many mystics seem to have forgotten. In the pagan communities, many times, many people I have heard state about destiny or karma and how they do not wish to have karmic repercussions. I hold a middle ground in this. There are things I won't do because I do not want that energy to be a part of me. But there are times I will run headfirst into battle because someone has to, and I would not want the energy of being a bystander, watching as someone suffered or died, hanging on me as a mystic knight, knowing I could have done something. I could have made a difference. The role of the mystic knight in society is to make that difference. We are the power underneath of power. We are the force that makes change, that motivates, directs, and guides the world around us. We have the ability to make a difference in a way that many other knights cannot. We are supported by other knights in this world, and we support them as well, because we are all fighting the same fight. We are all standing against true evils. And while many will argue the existence of evil, and yes, it does come down many times to point of view, there are some true evils in this world where freedom is being taken away, where will is being subjugated by others, or where ultimately people are caused suffering for no good purpose that must be considered evil. And the Mystic Knight stands against that at every turn, as all knights do, and we work alongside other knights to do this. As the Jedi have tossed away the Force in many places, it is important to address how this syncs up with all of that. In the current state of the Jedi community, it is shattered and fragmented. Mysticism is often frowned upon by some, and it is often relegated to personal dogma, when instead, seeking that connection to your already very well-defined force should be what you're aiming at. And I know, Charles, please, don't tell us how to be Jedi, and I won't. I am telling you the parallel I see between the path from when I walked it and to where I am now as a mystic knight, as a knight of awakening. Within that, the Jedi ideal should be ultimately in sync with that of the Mystic Knight in society. there should be a strong connection between these two ideas, in my mind. And the fictional idea of the Jedi is pretty much what a mystical knight should be, minus the laser chainsaw. Because let's face it, we ain't made a sword that cuts until you turn it off yet. The importance of relating this is that this will reach the Jedi community as well as the pagan communities. And I want them to understand the importance of what I have to say in this. When I do a video on what it means to be a mystic knight, I am speaking to every pagan. I am speaking to every Christian mystic who holds to a concept of a universal power that is beyond their understanding, that goes above a concept of God, but not below. If you're putting this below your God, if you are putting this below as a lower power, then this doesn't apply to you. You and I won't agree on anything in terms of this. In fact, we will stand polarly on opposite sides of that coin, because I believe you can be more, and you believe you must be less. Within that statement, as harsh as it is, I say it with love and kindness and compassion, because I recognize the truth of the infinite within each of you. As for the Jedi community, I have prepared some things in writing for this, to make certain my thoughts were collected. As the Jedi have tossed away the core of the Force in various circles, it now must fall to those who are still Jedi mystics to seek this flow. For those of you who are mystics, who are Jedi, this applies to you. It now falls to other mystic knights developing from the likes of Knights of Awakening and other sources to take up the call. As the Jedi are tossing aside the ideal of the Force, and it is now relegated to simply whatever it is you choose to believe, we have to take up this burden. We have to seek the higher road. I do not believe the time of the Jedi is at an end. I see that potentially the community is fractured enough that it is better to focus on the quest and to help those who are seeking to find the way. I'm not going to change the Jedi community, and if you're in the pagan community and you're listening to this, I've probably said a lot of things you already knew. I've probably said a lot of things you already came to the realization of. And some people will certainly attack my point of view when this is done. Some people will certainly take the high and mighty road, and I am sure many things will be quoted about how the community has set this standard and broke away from the fiction. And I tell you, it is not the breaking away from the fiction that saddens me. It is the breaking away from the Force. If you are not a Jedi, but are a mystic or a mystic knight, then rest assured you are in good standing with me as one who seeks to learn the waxing and waning of the flow, to guide it to help others, and to be guided by it on your righteous quest. If you are a Jedi and a mystic knight, rest assured you are one of my inspirations. You've helped me through countless conversations and examples of your goodness, dedication, and hard work to better myself in this world and in my own quest. If you are a Jedi who's tossed aside the Force, then I have nothing against you, but you have nothing for me. Your goals and paths are wholly different from my own, for I feel the flow moving inside of me every day. I draw my strength from it. It guides my hands and my arts. It guides my mind and my craft, and it makes me stronger. For you would have the first great inspiration in this that humanity has truly seen give up that singular unified understanding. I do not agree with tossing away the idea of the Force, or the flow, or the universal undercurrent. I understand that people have different experiences with it. But if you don't sync up with the ideal that's presented, don't call yourself something. Find a path that represents you. That's my view of it. And it won't be popular. And I'm not telling you how to be a Jedi or a pagan. I am telling you what it means to me to be a mystic knight. To be a knight of awakening walking this path. This will be popular and this will be unpopular depending on who views it, what they see of it, what they think of it. And I wholly expect that, and I'm ready for it. My hope is that this gave you a better understanding of that universal flow, that it inspired you as a mystic knight, that it set down a standard that those Jedi mystics will be inspired by to grow in a deeper understanding of this universal force, and that they won't dive back into the Dark Ages and try to degrade a greater concept with concepts that ultimately are built upon it. I truly believe in this universal flow. I believe it guides our actions. I believe that even this back and forth is a part of that we are growing from it. I believe that this video and this audio will help someone out there connect greater and better. And I hope that at the end of the day it will help them to awaken the knight within,